Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Performance Coaching for Empowered Black People Live. We're here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So good to see you here. Thanks so much for making the time. I am, let's see, make sure I get everything together here. I am Diane Thomas, and I'm an empowered Black woman. I'm a mom, a grandmom, a uh, sister friend, and just lover of Black people with my work. As a certified high performance coach, I work to help us get to higher levels of clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence so we can live empowered and purposeful lives while we are deconstructing for some of us who choose to take that path, but definitely for those of us who are rejecting Black excellence and Black exceptionalism. So I have been having these gatherings live here for the last 4 weeks. I think this is actually the fifth week, perhaps. And so in these opportunities here, we have to get together and to talk about what we um, some of what I'm seeing in the opportunities that I have to coach in the high performance arena with empowered Black people. And I'm also very much interested in hearing what your ideas are on specific topics that you feel are impacting you in your professional and personal life. So I do encourage you to comment throughout this broadcast, that the time that we will have here. I'll be asking questions, asking for engagement, also wanting for you to give me some ideas for some topics in the future as we're moving through this, so that we have a broad spectrum of considerations from other people, because pretty much it's just me, things that come to mind, things that may be timely, that we are that I'm seeing on in the news, or just common, what they call current event type things, as well as experiences that I'm having with my clients. So I have a limited view, and these are clearly all my opinions and that I share here, and that come from experience. So please feel free to share and to engage. So it's a two-way street, because that's really what I'm trying to build here, is a community of sorts. And so where you feel you can get in, or where you feel you can fit in, please come on in. So as I mentioned, performance coaching is in several other opportunities that I've had to speak here, really wanting for us to see that this is something for us. Our community oftentimes isn't proactive necessarily in terms of searching or seeking out coaching, and it's really not something that I expect a lot of people are comfortable with doing. Certainly in our community, because we're used to either communing with our friends, maybe at church and things like that. And so it's something that's still, it's a growing trend, but it's still new to us. And so as we are talking a lot more lately about mental health, and I am not a therapist, as I make sure I make very clear here, but part of the development of your growth as an adult and responsible adult in the world is to take accountability for your actions, take accountability for what you can and cannot do. And so you do a part of that through therapy, for those of us who are inclined to do so, and that kind of unpacks a lot of what the challenges we may have had up until this point, traumas and whatnot. And then with a coach, that person then helps you move from the point you are here currently to the future. So that is what I do as a performance coach, and I work specifically with a framework that focuses on 5 areas that tends, from what the research has um, divulged, is very commonly uh, found with those who are considered high achievers. And that's that they seek clarity, they generate energy, they demonstrate courage, they are very focused on being productive, and they garner influence. And that's all anchored within necessity and understanding that you have to have a why for, and we all have the reasons that we get up in the morning. But if you want to be someone who is not just moving through life and having life happen to them, but you actually want to affect change in your life and the lives of others, then you should really be focused on what is the reason? What is the reason? Why is it important? Was it absolutely necessary for you to do XYZ, whatever that goal is? And so, with empowered Black people, we know what that is. We are already people who are very clear about the direction that we want to go in. We may not know exactly how we'll get there, but we want to develop the plan. We want to move forward. We want to be people who are effectuate change in the spaces that we are in, and that we can bring impact to the people and be of service to the people that we are in community with. So that is what I do as a certified high performance coach. I work in tandem with the client, and it's over a 12-week period. We usually work weekly or meet weekly. There's homework involved in that. And I'm very much focused on getting you measurable, because we do assessments periodically, measurable change and increase in your ability to meet whatever those goals you are seeking to achieve. So, with that in mind, please take a moment to like and subscribe to this channel, because I want to make sure that I'm able to reach even more people with this message. As you also do that, you'll see there'll be a link in the description there for you to apply for a limited time only free uh, strategy session with me. It's 1 hour long. You can fill out the application, and then we can arrange for a 1 hour strategy session. And then at that time, we will definitely, through that process, by the end of it, you'll have at least one takeaway from that you'll be able to use in your life immediately. And I can guarantee that that will be the case. So you can't lose with 1 hour, taking 1 hour out of your life to see how you can elevate in those areas that we spoke about. So today I wanted to kind of to revisit a topic that I did a video on a few months ago. And the name of the video you'll see here on this channel is called Reactions versus Responses. And so as I was looking at that and really wanting to think more deeply, because those are kind of my overall thoughts about it, and but it's a lot more deeper topic in terms of the emotionality of it, which I'll talk about in a minute. So that's kind of why I came up with this idea to do this live. Are Black people overly emotional? Because we do. Um, well, I've been hearing a lot of comments on social media, and some of it is from, actually, most of it is from us, where we're admonishing one another in one way, shape, or form, and saying it's either men admonishing other men admonishing women, women admonishing men, etc., about our our level of reactions that we have. And in those people's estimations, it may be a bit much. In those people's estimations, it may be embarrassing. It may be negative in some way, shape, or form. So I thought that this would be a good topic to just get your feedback on. I would love to hear your ideas about it. Um, so I really, I think when I was doing that initial video, just looking essentially at some of the conversations that I was having with my clients and really understanding, first off, which is why I as I got this certification, I struggled for a long time to try to figure out how am I going to apply what I'm hearing and what I'm being trained to the people that I want to serve, because we're different. Um, we have gone through generational trauma to the extent that many people believe that it's now in our DNA. It's something that we carry from our ancestors and we pass on to our children. Trauma is something you're going to have to you can't not react to in some way, shape, or form. So it's I think par for the course to understand that this is who we are. This is what we carry, and there's some degree of this emotionality that we have to bear responsibility for. But this is kind of to explore to what degree and whether we even should or not. So understanding that we wear our emotions on our faces, we we walk with it, we talk with it. It's in the way we laugh, in the way we move. We talk about the neck rolls with some of us as we are bringing that extra oomph to a point that we want to make. Is basically the expression sometimes even that we have that we don't even have to speak. It's just in who we are, in the way that we show up. So Wikipedia defines emotionality as an observable behavior and physiological component of emotion. So it's something that again that we are acting out and we can see, and it's actually prompted by some stimulus of some sort. So I hadn't really I may have heard of the word emotionality, but it's certainly not a word I was using pretty often. Um, but we would hear other ways that would be classified, in terms of us being in our feelings, etc., or feeling some kind of way. You'd hear that terminology a lot, but it's really more so, I think, coming from a space of us really feeling that we have, and a lot of times that's all that we have is our emotion. That's all that we have is our way of expressing ourselves. But at the moment that I was talking about this from months ago, it really was about reaction versus response, and really because of the way that I coach and wanting to get to tangible, effective ways for my clients to deal with perceived challenges, that they do so from a space of thinking, more so than emotion, thought more so than emotion. But that is a way of simplifying things, and I don't want to oversimplify anything, because I'm certainly not dismissing the way I emote, and don't want to do that with anybody else. So they each have their roles. There are times when we have to be reactive. There are times that we are in spaces where we don't have maybe time to think through things, and because it's such an egregious affront, that we are going to react. We are going to have some sort of action as a result of the stimulus, right? The emotionality piece. Um, but I also, want to recognize that a lot of when I talk to my clients, it's about how are you going to manage that so that you're able to get to the other side. And in my effort to help them learn new habits and practices, it's about how is this serving you? How is the reaction, and how has it served you in the past? If you tend to be a reactionary person, is that serving you? If it's not serving you, then let's talk about different ways or other alternatives. And that may be with a particular situation. It may be just the way that they respond. But again, like I said, not me not wanting to be dismissive and me just being curious about how you may think about it. I wanted to talk about it some more today. So just really, I think generally thinking through that process was my question. When is it okay to react? When is that acceptable? And when is what you do too much? When we do you hear those comments about people doing the most, etc. I mean, there's lots of little colloquialisms that we're using these days that is us judging somebody else's reaction to a particular stimulus. And in the way that we're doing that, is it really dependent upon who is prompting the reaction or what is prompting the reaction that we're sitting in judgment of? So in the clarity exercises, one, as I mentioned, clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence are the areas that I coach in. And so I do the very first or the second session that I do is on clarity. And it's in helping my clients identify who they are, who they want to be in their way that they engage with themselves, and then how they want to show up for other people in terms of interacting with other people, and then what are the ways that they see that has helped them to get to the level of success that they've achieved or that could get them to higher levels of success. So as I'm thinking through that, or as I'm talking them through thinking through what that is, I am aware that they're doing that through a filter. And the filter very well could be specifically with engaging with other people, maybe not so much how they see themselves, because my hope is that they're being honest with me. I mean, it's really them being honest with themselves, but I do ask them to share it with me. So my hope is that they're being honest with themselves about who they see themselves are as, and when they are talking about how they want to engage with other people, that part may be through a filter, and that filter may be, how am I going to be looked at? How do I want to be looked at? Ideally by people who I feel may be judging me in some way, shape, or form. And so it's really getting them to think about what is authenticity for them in terms of the way that they're engaging with people, regardless of how those people may react to them now or receive them. Now, having said that, recognizing that there are, we have to be true to ourselves and in the way that we want to show up. And ideally, it's going for how we see ourselves is ideally going to translate into the way other people are going to receive us. But, we have been hearing about this term code switching, specifically in professional environments. And that can be one of the filters that we're concerned that maybe we need to talk a certain way. Maybe we need to use certain words. Maybe we need to maybe even become more adept at some specific topic of conversation because we're in environments that we're being judged based on what we know, based on how we sound. And so this then kind of leads to, so is that you being authentic? I certainly don't think so. If you feel you have to be in a space where you're switching up how you engage in conversation, certainly there's a professional demeanor that you have to have with your colleagues, and totally understand that. But, maybe if there are opportunities for you to be in casual settings with these people, are you still feeling that you need to do that? And why? So it's really looking at how you are going to aspire to a higher level of authenticity as you are working through, also making sure that you are going to be in a space where you can get the results that you want based on the way that you're showing up. So we are conditioned in certain ways to behave, and we are worried about being stereotyped as Black people. That is often the filter, when we're hearing about a lot of what's going on in the spaces that we're in. And as long as we've been working in professional spaces, we bring who we are, the way we look, into wherever we are at. So it is quite, it's not unusual to, and I think we do, many of us take for granted, for make the assumption that we are being judged by what people in the dominant society may hear and read and see, um, about other people who look like us. So, we have that terminology in terms of these stereotypes about hyper masculinity is one I hear a lot. That we may be categorized as loud, intimidating, inherently criminal, especially our men, and that we're very defensive. We, in any way that we sound in ways that we're communicating with people, we can't just have a regular conversation. If we disagreeing, we're being defensive. And certainly the angry Black woman trope, right? Where our pain a lot of times is identified as anger. It isn't something that's actually taken seriously. And this isn't just in professional environments. These are in environments that our health and our life is dependent on, that we end up in these spaces. So it just prompted me then to really think about, us understanding how we have to be as Black people. And I remember a quote from James Baldwin saying that to be Black in America is to be angry all the time. But is there a way, I don't know, for us to be angry? Well, I don't know if that's not the way to put it. Is there a way for us to interact with each other, interact with other people, where we are doing that from an empowered place, aware of the things that can be drawbacks, understanding the way that we're looked at, understanding that we are looking at other people through filters and they're looking at us through filters, and how can we look at emotionality in a way that we are we're comfortable with it, and it gets us gets us to the place we want to be, because that's the challenge, really, making sure that whatever we're doing, that it's getting us the outcomes that we're looking to have. So I had a few questions I just wanted to ask and see if anyone had any thing they wanted to share about the topic, specifically around this specific challenge that we have. Because I think the more that we have opportunities to talk about it, we can think maybe even proactively about how we want to show up the next time, if we're able to do that. And so the topic, are Black people over emotional, may have been a stretch, but it's only, again, because of what I've been hearing and wanting certainly to know that there are degrees to it. And so just really wanting to get your thinking about it. So, when I'm thinking through this, I'm looking at some things that came to mind from some reading that I had done. So it prompted me to ask myself these questions. So one of them is, do we wait for spaces to be made for us to express feelings? And if we wait, we understand that we're waiting in spaces with people who really don't care whether or not we have opportunity to express ourselves. Or if no space is made in the places that we are in, do we take up that space? Do we go on ahead and do that, and are when we do that, are we risking looking like we're over emotional? So I don't know if you had opportunities where you would like to share in the chat, if you can think about, had you ever been categorized as being over emotional, or what are your feelings when maybe you see other Black people in your mind who maybe through your judgment and the filters that you are looking at them through being over emotional. So I'd love to hear about that. Um, Also, was wondering, do we have a responsibility to moderate our expression and our tone so that we're not looked at or met with defensiveness and accusations? Um, and that's us self monitoring, that's us self censoring, maybe. Um, Again, with that filter on, recognizing that, how am I coming across to the other person that I'm talking to? Is there a way that I can say this? Do I want to even be bothered in the spaces that I am? Do I want to be bothered to even try to rephrase what I'm saying? So that's something to think about as well. Whether or not we have a responsibility, perhaps in certain um, environments we do, and maybe some that we don't. Also, should we expect understanding and allegiance from other Black people in these spaces? That's a question as well. Um, the I think oftentimes, sometimes we are our uh, hardest and harshest critics, and certainly of ourselves, but of other Black people. Black people are, and I mentioned that um, in a couple other posts that I had done on this channel, just in terms of understanding. If we understand ourselves, we can most definitely understand others, and if we give ourselves empathy, that we're able to do that with other people. But sometimes we feel we're being looked at by the dominant society, especially if we're working in these workspaces with other people who don't look like us, who aren't of our race. And so we wonder, can we run to this other Black person's defense? Is that a safe thing to do? Should we be trying to tell, to regulate the way they are showing up? Do we have a right to do that? Uh, and would we want somebody to do that to us if we felt very passionately about a particular issue that's going on? So that's another question that I asked myself. um, I was reading an article in Medium. It's a online magazine, and the writer was talking about emotional equity, and she described that. I'm not sure if that's a scientific term or one that she came up with, but she described it as not having to prioritize um, the way that we may make other people feel in spaces that we're in, and making them feel safe when we are feeling unsafe. And so essentially, it's us being able to show up authentically and be honest about how whatever's going on is affecting us, and feel safe in doing that. Um, that's part of the regulation that we may feel we need to do, self regulation. Need to, we may feel we need to think about, well, even a simple fact of saying, I need some help, to your boss of a different hue, may signal some sort of defensiveness on their end, because as Black people, we're not supposed to be feeling any pain. We're walking around as women, calling ourselves, with Black girl magic, using those terms and whatnot, and it's letting people think that we are uh, invincible in many ways, and we're not. And so we need to feel that we can be in these spaces and feel that we can express ourselves and what we need, and it not be something that is going to be a detriment to us. So please let me know if you've had any of these experiences in the workplaces that you've been in, and how has that shown up for you. I mean, I've had numerous occasions that I don't think I even recognized that, and this is a microaggression. Let me just also say that. Our feeling of not being safe to express what we need in the spaces that we're in is a type of microaggression, uh, because we are. It's either we're going to sit in these work environments or whatever we may wherever we are, right? We're mainly working and coming from a space of empowered Black people. So if we are empowered, we need to not be in spaces where we're feeling we can't speak up for ourselves. We need to not be in spaces where we feel we won't be safe emotionally. And essentially, if you're going to be working for somebody else on these plantations, these corporate plantations, that's a given. You're not going to be safe. But if you have to be there and you've chosen to be there, how are you going to engage with the your people who are your supervisors, powers that be, whomever, in a way that you are going to feel that that's a safe space for you to be, and this is a safe space for you to speak up in. Um, I've not ever filtered myself in terms of not of feeling that I had to prioritize somebody else's, in the dominant society, um, feelings and stifle my own. I've never been in a work environment where I've done that. Um, I I if I needed help, I asked for help. If I didn't understand something, I asked for clarity. Um, if I couldn't do something, I said I couldn't do it. I don't recall ever flat out saying I didn't want to do anything. I don't recall that. It's largely had been maybe I couldn't do it. But then the, that is a risk that you take even in that sense, because you're speaking your truth, and you may also have a challenge with whomever you're talking to, um, in terms of how they're going to receive it based on the type of relationship you have with them. So it's a tightrope, I think, that we walk on as Black people in these spaces, and we should be able to express ourselves emotionally and be respected. And I certainly hope, if nothing else, that we are able to do that in these places where there are also people who look like us, and that we are supporting them. That is the real um, issue, because the change, I think, is going to begin with us, as everything does. It's going to begin with us. We have to be the ones that are going to show up and are going to be supportive of each other. Um, I've heard from people who have been in charge of departments and certain spaces in their corporate jobs, and they've worked with other groups of Black people, and they hadn't felt safe in those spaces. Uh, and I think, just even generally, as hearing, I know I've heard it more than once about our tendencies and how we may be with each other in professional spaces, and understanding that we have um, a lot of times some antagonism towards one another, that it shows up in ways that we are not fully embracing ourselves and embracing other people who are in those spaces and helping them elevate. And this then kind of ties into challenges around, professional growth in these jobs that we are in, because a lot of times we're in isolated spaces. It may be that it's just us, or even if there are other Black people around, there's this sense that, well, I can't help you because that's going to, affect me in the way that I'm going to be able to advance and things like that. And we don't really want that to be something that is um, perpetuated. We don't want to perpetuate it, in and of ourselves. And so I definitely think that if we're able to support one another emotionally in these spaces, and there may be some ideas around how we do that, that can be the impetus for us developing the level of emotional safety that we need, so that we can express ourselves and not be judged, and not the smallest thing that we do end up intimidating and threatening, or being received as intimidating and threatening, because it is not. That is definitely, being in toxic work environments, that is probably at the top when we're thinking about what are the reasons that a lot of us are just having burnout, and are just deciding that, for many other reasons, we are doing things that are not as healthy to get through our engagements, and in the way that we're working with other people, because we're not feeling safe even among each other. So that's definitely one of the things I want to stress, is that we have control, we are empowered, we have agency, we can make decisions, we can choose to be different, and we can choose to be better. And that we do that in light of understanding that we're in service to each other. I think is if we keep that in mind, it's something that's going to help us build our abilities to move forward in in the future, in the spaces that we're in. So I don't want to belabor the topic, but that was essentially what I had for you tonight. Hopefully, this gives you some food for thought to thinking about how you show up in the spaces that you're in, thinking about what emotional safety looks like for you in your work environment if you are working, and whether that's remotely, or if you're working, if you go out of the house to work, and even again in the social situations that you find yourself in with friends. um, we had this issue um, come up recently about customer service, and folks seemingly to be uh, in some people's estimations overreacting to what was deemed as poor customer service, all these types of things. So um, they're not just, these aren't issues specifically for the work space or workplace. It's definitely spaces that we're finding ourselves in throughout our engagements as we move about the world. So think about that. And then if you have any thoughts, after we're done here tonight, please share them with me, because I think this is more these are little mini coaching sessions that I'm doing here with you. So hopefully you'll see some value in it, and then you're going to be able to share them with your folks. So please, once again, take a moment to like and subscribe if you have not done that already. Please do that, and please take a moment to um, fill out the application below so that you can apply for my free coaching uh, session. And I am looking to do a group coaching cohort in midwinter sometime. So I understand that maybe paying for one-on-one coaching may be a little cost prohibitive for you, but if you're interested in doing a group coaching session, this will be a great entree in for you to go on ahead and complete that application so that we can to get started. So if there's nothing else, I will let you go. I hope that you got some value from today's session, and until next time, be safe and blessed.